Okay, so welcome everyone. This is our third, fourth remote meetup. And it's a great thing because we can show you some games that we played online in this remote setup and try a few things. So we will be using Zoom and we will be using Mural. And in order to make you comfortable with those, we have a little icebreaker where Francesco will put us in several breakout rooms. And the group that you have in your breakout room will be your team members for the rest of the games that we have today. And since the topic today are user stories, we were thinking it would be a nice thing to maybe share your experience with user stories and what do you think, how user stories are defined in your team or your company, and what do you like about them and what do you struggle with when you look at your user stories. This is not about how you work on user stories. It's we will be looking more into the definition before the teams actually picks up the user story and starts working on it. Okay, so Francesco.
Yeah, so you will be redirected into breakout rooms. Is everyone familiar with the mechanism, or is that new to anyone?
It's new to me, if you don't mind.
Okay, absolutely. So I'm gonna create them now. At the moment I click the button, you'll get a prompt message asking you to follow. That will be the moment you click, that will redirect you to a different Zoom call. There you will find a subset of the people that you have here. Specifically, you'll be sent, that happened randomly, to room 2, where you'll find 4 people in total, including yourself. It will work exactly as it's working now, no difference. At the end of the time, I will send a notification. You will have 60 seconds, and I cannot stop the counter from that moment to go back. Notification will appear in the form of a prompt that will tell you, follow it to go back to the main room, which is this one, okay? When you are in a breakout room, you will be able to see the messages that I will be sending from the main room. I'll always remain in the main room for anyone who has any problem. If your connection drops or whatever happens, you'll find me here. You will be able to read my messages. Let's say you sent from the main room to the private one. I will not be able to see your messages from the breakout room to the outside. Similarly, you will not be able to connect and discuss with any other people in any other breakout room. Okay, it's like moving temporarily on a different parallel Zoom call.
And please remember in which room you are, because that will then help you later find your place in the game. And the room name will be, when you get the invitation, it will say room 123, which room you are.
Okay, and you're very welcome. Is there any other question before we go? Nope. Okay, enjoy. Hello, hi everyone. We have 2 new friends. I hope you are already a big bunch and welcoming group of people. I'll need 1 volunteer from room 1 to go to room 3. Okay, so room 1 has just got 4 people. The 2 new people will probably move to room 1 and room 2. Okay, thank you, Ana. Sorry about the interruption.
Okay, and I hope you had a chance to share your experience. And also, I would like to try a new thing, because it's nice to try things when you have several people. So when you think about how you use user stories, what 3 words would you use to describe user stories in your environment, how you define them? Are they well defined? Are they confusing? Are they too big? I don't know, whatever comes to your mind, 3 words. And it would be great if you go to dementi.com and you can put in the code that you see on the screen, or you can use the link that's written below, and I hope Francesco is copying that in the chat. Or the third way is to scan the QR code. You should come to the web page and be able to enter up to 3 phrases or 3 words that describe your definition of user stories. You don't have to put all 3, you can put as many as you can think of. And we should get a word cloud from your results.
Nice too.
Yeah, I have seen it in some meetups and webinars. It's really nice. And if some word is used more times, it should be larger. So there are some interesting words. Inconsistent, technical, testable, that's good. Some are chaotic, some are not clearly defined, vague, variable. Okay, thank you. So we will save the results and put them for you later in the meetup. Okay, so let's go back to the main presentation. So when you are defining user stories, there are several things and several recommendations how to create a good user story. User story, you heard about the type of the template, how to write a user story. You can write it in a way that you define as a type of a user. I would like to achieve certain things so that I would like to do certain things so that I can have some value out of it. But that's not a sufficient thing to do. You can write a user story with those templates and they can still be not good user stories. They can be vague, they can be too detailed, they can be user stories which are not helping the team. To help you see how user stories are defined and to help you see what else needs to be in the story or how story should be phrased, there are certain things that you can look at and see if those things, if your user story has them. And there is this invest criteria, which defines what are the areas you need to make sure that you have in your user story. The first one would be independent. If the user story is independent, that means that reasonably possible, this user story does not depend on any other user story or is not blocking any other user story. As we are working on larger features and larger pieces of work, that is sometimes really hard to have a user story that is independent because you are creating larger piece of work, but you should be splitting your user stories in a way that they are reasonably independent. And one of the things it is important when you pull in your user stories on the board, Kanban or Scrum, if 2 user stories are dependent on each other, if one of them get blocked, then other one is also blocked on your board, and suddenly you find yourself with half of your board blocked. So that iteration in Scrum or your Kanban board is blocked and you cannot progress. So one of the things is to think how you define your user stories and how you slice your pieces of work. Second thing, or maybe I will not go them letter by letter. Let me tell you what I think it should happen when the person preparing a user story brings it to the team. So product owner should think about I, we, and T. So I is how the stories are, or how it piece of work is sliced. V is what is the value that it's bringing to the customer. And T, that is testable, that are some acceptance criteria written so the team will know when they are done. What does it mean to be done? And they know how to verify and how to test it. And then once the user story has its template and basic things in it, then the product owner should come to the team, and then we go to the negotiable part. User story shouldn't be written to the tiniest detail and brought to the team. User story should tell you why we are doing something, what we should build and why we are doing it, while the team then needs to say how it will be done. And that's the part of negotiable. And that's something I noticed a lot of people trying to prepare user stories for the team sometimes go into too many details and prescribe how things should be done before the team gets even the chance to look at it. So negotiable is one of the things where it's good to talk to the team to see how things should be done, and something that's sometimes really hard to explain. And then the team needs to make sure that the user story is small enough that they can do it in their iteration, inside your Scrum iteration, or if you have a Kanban, you can also see, okay, what does it make sense? What is the usual size of work we would like to pull in? So make it sure it's small enough, and then that it's estimable, which means after the discussion, after refinement, and after all the questions are answered, there are no unknowns, or everybody understands in the team what is it, and they can estimate it. And that, if the team can estimate the story, that means that they reach agreement with product owner, and that user story is ready to be pulled into their sprint or on the Kanban board. So these few criteria will then help you see if this user story is ready for the team. Any questions?
I have too many questions.
Okay.
The first thing is, actually, I have some objections about how we are ready when we start the refinement sessions with the team. You said that we shouldn't detail everything, every requirement on the story, but it doesn't happening like that in the real life. Because when you come up with a story with the team, they want everything. They want to know everything about this piece of requirement. So in that case, as a PO or as an SA who is building the story, you want to be ready and put everything on the story. Even sometimes it includes the solutions. So
yes. Well, I would say
like the refinement session that everyone put the ideas and it's building the story together.
Well,
especially in our case, in our project, it doesn't happening like that, because you need to announce, you need to present something as ready, as a refined requirements to the team to get them understand what they need to done and what they need to test. So it's, in theory, it sounds okay, but in the real life, there's something else about the stories, requirements, and the development and teams and the QA team.
That is then a joint effort in coaching both the people preparing the stories and the team. Sounds like the team likes to be guided, maybe a little bit too much if they are expecting the solution to be served. Yeah. And then I usually ask them, do you want to participate in finding the solution, cracking the problem, or do you just want to be hired for coding? Or I try to phrase it in a way, depends on the team, but that's how they usually realize, yes, sometimes, actually, I don't ask them that way. I invite them to join the refinement, to give their ideas, what they think it's a good. And through several of these iterations, team then learns that they are actually asked for their opinion, and that they can say, okay, we think this should be done differently, or we think we can benefit from this. And also, if it is a team that is used to getting too large stories, they like when they can say, oh, this is too much, can we split it?
Yeah.
So that's how I invite them to see the benefit into some of the discussions. It is true that acceptance criteria needs to be defined, but through the discussion, they can come up with several other things that might not have been put in. Another case which I have seen is that the teams do not get, backlog is not prepared in time because people preparing spend too much time into preparing the details and they are running late. And then the teams say, we just got this feature too late and we need to deliver it because somebody was putting too much effort in advance to prepare it. So it is inviting team to start looking at the feature a little bit earlier and to be involved in it so that they can participate in the solution.
Okay.
Another way how I would approach it, and I was trying to do it with several teams, is not bringing them stories, bringing them features which are a little bit larger pieces of work and telling them how would you split it and what would make sense. And through those sessions, you do the coaching because feature can be split into several ways. This is the independent part, how you split it so that you don't block each other and to bring more value into doing small pieces, testing, and then delivering to have the value delivered as soon as possible. So it's both coaching POs and the teams and inviting teams to be more, to show a little bit courage and to start participating and not to waiting to be told what to do.
Okay.
And
So
the last one you described is probably more closely aligned with the story mapping technique or story mapping practices, which can be quite good. What I found is that when people do come to the team with these big stories that they think they're ready, it turns out they're not ready because the VA or the person preparing the user story doesn't have all the information or is not aware of the subtleties of the system in the background, and it needs the developers to confirm or to point out gaps in the requirements.
Yeah, so those are the things which are very hard to explain, as I just told you, with definitions, because it just raises the questions. And as I was working with teams who were used to large user stories, when I joined one of the teams as a technical person first, I got a user story that was estimated to 400 days. So it was a JIRA ticket assigned to my name, estimated to 400 days. And it was obvious that it was too large piece of work, too many unknowns. And this is not how you should start working on something. You need to split it into smaller pieces. So when you work with the teams, what I did is I would play a game with them to show them what does it mean negotiable? What does it mean testable? What is a good user story? What is not a good user story? To give them a feeling. And then we would play a game. And then after that, we would go into a first refinement session where we would work with their own user stories to show them how they can approach them. So one of the questions was from people, why don't you play a game with their own user stories? It might seem on the first one that you can bring these principles and explain on their user stories, but I found that people get too attached to their own work and they are not observing these principles in a way with a free mind because they are attached to the work. They have their own ideas already, and it's really hard for me to explain and to go and to be that knowledgeable about their work. If I bring a story that everybody can read, and regardless if they are technical or less technical person, but they can connect to a story to learn about it, then it gives us a common ground to talk about the principles. And then after the initial game, we go into a session with their own user stories where they start applying those principles, and they are more open then. So in order to do that and to have an example to show to the teams what is independent, what is testable, what is negotiable, I was playing a game which I found online, and it has several games. So you print out these small cards, you can cut them, and you give them to the teams and tell them, can you please read descriptions of these stories and put them in certain categories. Are they a good user story, testable, non-testable, and stuff like that? And then they would put them and they would flip a card, and on the back of the card, there would be a solution. So they could see, okay, I thought this was a good story, but it says it's not because of this and that. And that was the way I was playing it in the room. I would split the team into small groups of 2 or 3 people and give them several sets of these games, and we would discuss it. So now that we switched online and we are in remote setup, I brought this into my board, and I would give them examples. I would prepare categories and ask them to move the cards, what they think, and then I would show them the results. My tool gives me the option to hide the results, but if you don't use that tool, if you use a different tool, you can do it in a way, you can put something across it, or you can have papers in front of you and then tell them the results and stuff like that. So it's not about the tool, it's just what you present. The important thing is that you give your team a possibility to read the card and discuss it and put it into a certain column. There are on the link, and this will be shared with you later. On this link, there are like 6 or 7 games. I chose 3, and I always play with my teams 3 games, because some of the games are more designed for teams that are developing software. Some of the games are more designed for the managers or for the people looking at the promoting the product. So, and some of the games I found confusing to the people who are looking at them for the first time. So I kind of filtered the game, which I think it's the best for the teams. For example, if I work with a technical team that is developing software, having a game that asks them, how would you reach 10 times more subscribers for your newsletter or something like that, doesn't speak to them. So that's how I chose my games. You can go there and look at all the games and see which one suits you. So the games I usually play is, the first game is the sizing game, where we talk about difference between the product, feature, and story. Then it's what makes a good user story. And then the one that is really something a little bit complicated for people to understand is this negotiability testability. So these are the 3 games we will play today. You will be, how many rooms do we have, Francesco?
We'll have 3 now.
Okay, we have 3 rooms, so we will all be in the same mural board. If you go to the link tinyurl.com/invest, you should see a mural board, and I will quickly show you how it looks. It looks very confusing at the moment, but if you look into it, there are 3 rows with the games. One game is 1 row. There is a description, and then each group has breakout room 1, 2, and 3 with the hidden results in the middle. And it's really hard to navigate through the mural board. So I suggest that you use the outline, which is this button, outline in mural. And then you will see game 1, room 2 in the outline. And if you click on it, you will directly go into your frame where your group will play the game. And you can move your yellow post-its around. So the first game, any question about the mural? You should be able to access the board. So the URL is tinyurl.com/visagi-invest. You should be able to access it as a visitor, and you don't need to have an account, and you should be able to play the game. Any question? When you access the mural, by using the outline, you can jump between the frames, and you can also zoom in and zoom out with your mouse. If something is too small, zoom in And if it's still too small for you and you cannot read, because I tried to put some of these post-its smaller so that you have a room to move them around, you can press X and put mouse on it and it will pop up. So X on your keyboard and mouse over the post-it. Any question regarding Mural? And are you all able to join? Okay, so the first game is the sizing game, where we introduce people to team members to the product, epic, and user story. So what would you, out of these examples, what would you define as a product? What would you define as an epic or a feature? And what would be a user story? User story should be small enough to be done in inside one of the iteration, and preferably in few days. Some of these post-its are hard to understand without the context, and some of them could be in two groups. And suggestion is that you don't move from the main board, because they are copied on each of the frames for each group and room. They are exactly the same, they are copied, and you will have your set. So if you are from the breakout room 2, for example, try to find game 1, room 2, or game 1, room 3, click on it, and you will then go into your frame, and you and your subgroup, your breakout room, can then discuss and try to put these post-its under the certain columns and categories. Any question? No? In that case, then Francesco will send you in your breakout rooms, and you will have 7 minutes to discuss. If you are not sure, just leave the post-it where it is. If you have a specific question that you want to bring once we come back all, you can click on a post-it once, and you will get the option to change the color. So you can change the color, for example, in red, and you will all remember that you want to ask a question about this specific one.
So sending out to the rooms, you'll go, people who were here for the warm-up exercise, the icebreaker exercise, will go to the same rooms. Anna, I put you on a new one, on the third one, with all the people who joined late, just to simplify your life. Okay.
Okay.
See you in 7 minutes. Welcome back.
That was quick.
You guys finished very, very quickly. Did you have time to get bored, or did you continue the conversation?
We continued the conversation.
Okay. I was trying to keep track of different teams, and each one was going at a pretty different speed. So it will be interesting to hear feedbacks from people.
We just got to the first pass quickly, and then the debate happened afterwards.
That's a very smart approach. That's a very smart one.
It's iterative.
Yeah.
It was more like magic estimation, where everyone just did their own thing and then had a quick look to see what everyone else had done.
Interesting. Okay, we should have everyone back now. Anna, to you.
Okay. Sorry, I'm lost in between the screens. Okay, so there is one thing I forgot to mention. At the bottom of this large mural where we are playing the games, there are two special areas. One is for the question and one is for the feedback. If any question pops up and we don't answer it, or even if we answer it later, you can write it here down, and that way we can keep track of questions and we can come back to them at the end. And also, if you want to leave a feedback at any time during this session. this, you can also access questions and feedback. If you go at the bottom of the outline, you can jump into a question, write a question, and then jump back to your frame or your room. Okay, so to show you how it is here, these are the results. So as I said, some of them you need to have a context to know, is it epic or a product? But I hope that user stories were visibly smaller than the epics or products, and that you were not confused with user stories.
What are the things between the epics and products?
Yeah, the question is, what is the, how do you differentiate? Is you need to have a context. Is this something that we already have? For example, do I have a pizza page where you can order regular pizza that I predefined, and then I want to add a new feature which says you can design your own, you can say this topping with this type of a sauce and create something custom, then it would be an epic. But if I don't have anything for ordering pizza, then I think it's a product. So that's the kind of a discussion where you can see what you are adding and how you treat it. Any other question?
Yeah, one more question about this. Manage the loyalty cards to able to get the best deals. We found this, what is the management behind it? So uncertain requirements. So we decided to put into products because it can be so many large requirements and expectations behind it.
Yeah.
And we decided to keep as a product.
Well, then depends how you organize and how large your product is. But in this case, your main product is probably the portal where you have a moviegoer buying tickets, seeing what movies are available. And then loyalty card is just a feature inside that. It's not something you would say, okay, now probably you wouldn't start a new project saying, let's now give loyalty cards and then build the structure around it, build the movie going experience around the loyalty card. It's more like, let's build a product to offer experience to moviegoers, and then a loyalty card is just a feature in it.
Okay.
That's my interpretation. As I said, this game, and these are the questions I usually get from the teams, user stories are small and they are really small piece of work. And then what is an epic? What is a product? It's something that you can then see with your company. What might happen is that a company has too many products and then they get lost and they are too focused on a small thing and they call it a product and they don't talk to the rest of the company, which then can become a problem and you get a silo. So not everything is a product. That's also something that you need to think about. Okay. But also, as I said, my first experience in one of the teams was they gave me a user story of 400 days. And that for sure is not a user story. So to show people there are work items of different sizes and there should be a distinction between them. And they shouldn't be treated all as a work item of a few days of work, should not be treated in the same way as a work item of 400 days. It's not the same thing. Okay.
And so for the epic online shopper wants to reduce response times, if I wanted to make that into a user story, but I want to break it down to be like response times on specific.
This is something that where actually you would probably want to bring it to the team to see how they can make it better. And this is an example where the team needs to see. This is not something where the product owner can come and say, oh, this is what you will do to make it faster. It probably depends on the system. Would you go into improving the algorithms, search or display or rendering or something like that? And it can be then smaller things, smaller tweaks in different areas of your product or different things that in the end bring this experience.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
And yeah, without the context, some of these might be.
So
might
where
be
should we
tricky.
put the features in that line, like user stories, features, and epics, or?
Depends how you call what you use as an epic, what you use as a feature. I'm used to call features and epics the same.
Okay.
Some companies distinguish them, depends on the tool they use. Some of the tools have actually predefined, they have products that they are split into epics, which are split into features, which are split into user stories. But that's specific to the tool for tackling work items. I'm used to different tools, and there we didn't have features, we had epics, so we used epics as features. So that also depends how in your company you decide to make things granular and which level then handles what.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so our next game is the game Who, What, Why. So as I said at the beginning, user stories are usually written as in a format. As a type of a user, I want to do something in order to achieve something. These user stories are not written in that type. So don't worry about the actual phrase. Try to see which of these user stories tells you for whom you are doing it, what needs to be done, and why needs to be done. Very often people forget why. Recently, I saw a user story saying, I would like, for this type of a user, I want to do this, but there is no why. And that's important because sometimes team can challenge the user story and can come up with a different solution. For example, I am in the office and I need to bring from one office building to another office building very heavy pack of my stuff for a game. And I ask, give me a car so I can go to another office which is 700 meters further away because I cannot carry all the stuff I need for my game. And then if you say it that way, give me a car, then the team goes and builds a car and gives me a car. But to be honest, those two offices are in the business park that has one-way streets. So going with that car, it's very complicated to get from one building to another building, and it takes you a lot of time. And then I also need to park the car and I need to think about it. If I said, I need a solution to bring very heavy stuff from point A to point B somehow, because I want to organize a game in another room, in another building, then somebody could come and say, oh, we can give you a suitcase on wheels, a large suitcase on wheels. You can put all your stuff in it, even if you have 15 kilos, and you can then use the wheels of the suitcase and go there. And walking on foot, it's really easy to come from building A to building B. So by telling people in advance stuff, then and not saying why you need something and what you want to do, it's really hard to come up with a good solution. So let's see which of these user stories, if you look into it, you need to see which user story doesn't explicitly say why, doesn't explicitly say what, doesn't have who, and which one is a good user story. We have a little bit more tickets now, so you will have 8 minutes to play the game.
And rooms are ready, are the same as before. You are now super familiar with the mechanic. I'll see you later.
I have to say, this is surprisingly fun.
Oh,
I agree.
perfect feedback.
I'm enjoying it as well. It's fun. It's a game.
Absolutely.
Fantastic.
And I think it's a little bit easier when you play it with a team that is a team, because we are a group of people who don't know each other. So sometimes we are quiet. While if you have a team, they are used to talk to each other and discuss. So some discussions can be interesting.
I think our team's got over that problem. I don't think they're holding back in any way.
Good. Are we all back?
Yes, we lost one person, unfortunately, had to leave,
Okay.
but said hi before leaving, so.
Okay. So here are the results. And which one is surprising for you?
The developer one is surprising because we thought that was just rubbish. So we didn't have it in any category at all. It was just
Yeah.
on its own.
Credit, no story.
As you see, these round bubbles are explanations that are written on the other side. But I play this with, I don't know, 6, 7, 10 development teams, and they always put it under the good story, because technical teams are used to have a task, work item saying do this, do that, and do something. But this is not a user story. This is a task that needs to be done. It can be an improvement task, but this is not a user story that brings value. So if we look at initial invest, it's not bringing value to the customer. It is probably a task that needs to be done under a proper user story. Or if it is a larger piece because you are behind on testing and now you have a half of your code without testing, then it needs to be treated as continuous improvement, and team should be pulling, every iteration should be pulling in tasks to improve. And when I work with my team, sometimes I have a task on the board for improvement, but this is defined by the team, not by the product owner. And we say, we will reserve 10% of our capacity to do improvements, but this is not the user story that goes through the usual channels from product owner. But without a doubt, every development teams put it under a good story. Any other?
I guess we had in room 2, the reorder previous purchase. We kind of said it was a know why and know who. Oh, yeah, I see you have it here.
How about the pizza deliverer?
Reorder previous purchase. This is under know why and know who.
Yeah.
And pizza delivery, that is my favorite.
Yeah.
Second after the developer. Why this one is not a good one? What is the problem here? Pizza delivery, if you are a developer and you are doing something for pizza deliverer, he gets a pizza in his hands. What are you building for him? Are you building a navigation application? Is it on the mobile phone? Are you printing out the route and giving him the route on paper that he can track while he's driving? Does he have somebody on the phone navigating him? What are you building? So there is no clear what. Yeah, you are giving him the route, but in which format? So if I'm a team, what I'm doing? Is it mobile application? Is it web application? Is it in browser? Is it on the phone? What is it? So it's a vague, very vague what you are building. It has a clear why, but it doesn't have what. And this is something then that's not ready for the team to pick up. That needs to be a discussion. Okay, any other?
This is a very good game.
Yeah, as I said, with those kind of people are not emotionally attached to them, so you can bring some good questions. Okay, if there are no more questions, then we are going to the last game, which is the negotiability and testability. As I said, negotiable is, are you telling team how exactly they will build it? Or are you giving it, are you leaving how open to the team to come up with a technical solution? Because they are experts in it and they should have a say in it. And the second thing is testable. Is it a thing that clearly tells to the team when they are done? And this is something where most of the team struggles. And I had discussions with the team during the review of user story. The team thought it's done, and then somebody would say, no, it's not done because I expected this or that. And that's the problem. If you don't state in advance what does it mean done, then the team can go in rounds and never be really done. So same thing, you have your user stories, you have 3 columns, and some of them are very similar, which then is nice to compare, which is a good and which goes into not negotiable or not testable. So see you in the breakout rooms.
Yeah, I may join again the room with only 3 people, if people don't mind. We'll have 8 minutes. Please follow the prompt. That's good. That we are all back. Ana.
Yeah, so, and the last game. Okay. I hope you notice that some of these come in pairs, that you have seemingly the same user story, but with a small tweak in the text to see what's the difference. So what are the questions?
Okay, so let's look at the non-negotiable. The first one, shopper wants database queries.
Yes.
There's the who is there, the why is there, what needs to be done is there, 0.5.
Yes.
So
yeah, but compare it with a good story. Good story says, I want it to be responsive under 0.5 seconds, but I'm not telling developers where to find the tweak. Maybe our database query is really fast, but maybe we have a problem with rendering and sorting the data after we did the database query. Maybe it's something else that's the problem. So with saying database query needs to be sped up, I'm telling team how to solve the problem, and I'm too directive. And being a product owner, I should come with a problem to the team. I should come to the team and say, look, team, our page is slow. We need to make it faster, and team should come up with a solution, technical solution. So when you have these two in pair, it's nice to see what's the difference.
I guess one of the things I struggled with some of these user stories was the person, and kind of looking at a shopper wanting the response time of 0.5 seconds or less. I found it very prescriptive. I was trying to put myself in the mind or in the shoes of the shopper, but I kept thinking this is a technical ask that's coming, or I was viewing it as a technical ask, and struggle to see if it would come from a shopper or a different role.
Yeah. So if you would describe a user story, you would probably put it as a shopper. I would like this application to be fast enough so that I can make quick decisions. And then the acceptance criteria, what does it mean fast enough? We can do it, we can always do it faster than it is, but then are we putting too much effort? Are we gold plating it? And then the acceptance criteria for the team would be, if it's faster than 0.5 seconds, it's fine. So for example, this 0.5 seconds is strange, but I worked with a team that was delivering reports to the bank. And they said, we need to make this report run under 24 hours because it's a daily report. There is no point in a report running 25 hours. So they needed to tweak, and then they decided, and based on some other processes that needed to run with the report, they said this report needs to run under 10 hours. You don't have to tweak it so much that it runs in an hour, but if it goes under 10 hours, it's fine for us. You need to have this acceptance criteria so the team knows to be testable. Is it good enough? Is it tweaked enough? Does that help with the explanation?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that one should be not testable because I'm not sure how can we test if they have enough time to shop, or the clothes shopper wants to find the stores near them so they can decide if they have enough time to shop. So
this one goes together with the clothes shopper wants a zip code. So in this, you can define a user story with this text. It tells you who, it tells you what, and tells you why. And then testability can be defined under the acceptance criteria. This is not in the main line of the user story. You can say, I need to find stores, I don't know, in a radius. You can then discuss what does it mean to be close in this particular case. And another thing is why it's negotiable and the other one is not. If I come to the team and I say, I want you to sort or find clothes by zip codes. And then the team says, yeah, but we don't have in our system zip codes. So we need to implement the whole support for zip codes. Then we need to search. Then we need to have an algorithm telling us which zip code is close to which one. And you would, especially here in Dublin, you have D1 and D2. And you would think they are close, but no, you have this north and south side. So, and I'm in D6, which is bordering D12. So it's really complicated. So how do you come up with algorithm, what is close, what is not close? So then team can say, this is complicated. Instead of that, maybe we can come up with a different solution. We can put a pin on the map and see a radius of 2 kilometers. Would that be okay? Or something like that. And then you would define acceptance criteria with the technical solution, what is close enough. But this is a pair to show you which one is negotiable and which one is not negotiable. If you bring how to the team, then that's not good. Because they can spend a lot of effort. If the team, one of the problems that we are teaching teams is to ask questions. And if something doesn't make sense, call it out. If you bring to the team and team says, yes, you have written me what to do, and I'm not thinking, I'm just taking your user story and I will do what it says, they can spend too much time introducing the zip code functionality. And instead of implementing something that can be done in a small amount of time and a quick solution, they have a too costly feature that will achieve the same thing with a longer development time. That's why negotiable, that's why asking team what makes sense from a technical perspective is really important. Okay, another one?
Yeah, okay.
One with Susan. That's one of my favorites. Art buyer, make it pretty. If you see there is one with art buyer under non-testable and one with Susan. That one is not testable in a usual way that you would think, okay, I have a test that I can run, click a button, test will run and tell me, did it pass or not? This one is more on a manual human side. I go to Susan and she tells me, but there is a way to say this user story is done. If our buyer just says, make it pretty, that I can show it to my friends, it's not, how do you test it? Unless he goes to his friends and then his friend says, they say it's ugly. So this is the small difference between the user stories.
Thank you, Ana. I think we have technically 1 minute left. We were hoping or thinking at least to do some Q&A at the end. looks like we didn't need to encourage the conversation. That's spontaneously. I really hope you liked it. As Anna is showing, there's a feedback form in the end. If you have any suggestion, any comment, anything, please drop a note there. We review it and we'll try to improve for the next times. If you have any game, any activity, anything that you think could qualify as visual, where visual is a very wide concept, anything that can help us touching, feeling, experiencing, hands-on, what is very often just a concept, anything that can help us materializing this very abstract world of work where we live, please let us know. We are always looking for speakers. Anna has been quite magnificent in lining up 2 talks in a row. I also should apologize with her because I have not introduced her at all at the beginning, but I think the quality of her work spoke for herself. I hope you enjoyed that. But few feedbacks came along those lines. What else can we say?
One more thing is that the PDF with this game will be shared in Meetup. So you will be able to come back to it and see it and find the link to the original games that you can download and see the games I haven't used and see which one suits your case, and you will be able then to use those materials. Most of these tools, you don't have to type in the text. I just use the text from the original materials and copy pasted into Mural, and Mural transformed it into Post-its. So most of the tools you will be able to port from one media to another.
Last thing, recordings, a few conversation going on on the Meetup side. Once the recording will be available, we'll try to upload it on YouTube. We've created a dedicated channel. If you want to follow us, it's still fairly empty, but we hope to fill it with new contents as we go. Reminder on Twitter, if you want, or any other social media, Visagi is the hashtag. And thank you all. Hope to see you the next time.
Thank you so much. It's a very good event. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It really cleared out a lot. Thanks.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
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 Bye.